YouTube channel. The topic of today's video is 3 things that's been forever changed about motorcycling ever since the pandemic. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing that I want to mention that's changed about motorcycling is just the weird pricing, the demand, the supply, all of that stuff that's been going on for the last few years, ever since the pandemic. And even up to today, the pricing is just kind of all over the place, and I don't really get it. So the first few years, the demand spiked because, during COVID, everyone wanted to ride motorcycles. Everyone wanted to pick up a new hobby. You couldn't go anywhere, so motorcycling was a really good hobby for a lot of people to pick up. The demand spiked, sales spiked for a lot of brands, and at the same time, there was a chip shortage. So all of that was kind of like a perfect storm for a lot of things, meaning the price, mostly, to go up. The pricing was just all over the place for new bikes. Dealers were tacking on like some surcharges. You were paying thousands more than what the MSRP was. Harley was doing their like market value pricing, which means like how much they could charge you, considering like what motorcycles are going for, all that different kinds of stuff. It was just really weird and funky. And that plus with the chip shortage, they didn't really have a lot of bikes. I think we're still kind of seeing the aftermath of it. It's just been really odd, right? And that even bled into used motorcycles, where used motorcycles were going for as much as like brand new motorcycles. Dealers didn't really have a whole lot of supply. They didn't have motorcycles, brand new motorcycles that they could sell. So what's the next best thing? You buy used motorcycles that you can sell, right? So they were offering crazy incentives to buy used motorcycles so that they can actually sell something in their dealerships. So that also drove the demand of used motorcycles up. I've seen ebbs and flow where like I've seen prices drop for a little bit, but then prices will go back up. But right now, I think the prices are coming down. I'm not quite sure exactly why. When you think about the economic factors, that's the macroeconomic factors that's going on with a lot of people getting laid off, just the whole inflation issue. I will say so many factors that have been going into this that makes pricing just a really weird state for motorcycles. And then you also have interest rates, right? Like the interest rates have been insanely high. So I think that's also causing people to like kind of hold back on buying brand new motorcycles, used or brand new motorcycles. It also bleeds into parts, different aftermarket parts that you want for your motorcycle, right? There's been long waits for them. Some things have been out of stock for a long time. It's hard to like get your hands on certain things. So it's just a weird time. And the pandemic was really the onset of it all. So I think that's one thing that the pandemic has completely just kind of like knocked out of balance for the motorcycling industry. And hopefully, in the next year or two, we'll go back to some sort of homeostasis or some sort of stability. I really do hope to see that. The second thing that has been forever changed, I think, since the pandemic, as it relates to motorcycling, is just the erratic drivers on the road. I don't know if it's just me that's seeing this. I hope you guys see it too, but the drivers on the road today, I feel like, are way more erratic and, for lack of better words, dumb today than they were just a few years ago. And don't get me wrong, they were always kind of, not the smartest. They always did some stupid things, but I feel like more so now than ever, I'm seeing bad drivers on the road. It's mostly driven by people working from home, more so than ever. If you drive every day, of course, you're gonna be a better driver than if you drive like once in a while. So I think that is kind of what's happening. People aren't used to it. I think people are also a lot more distracted on the road today than they ever have been. Again, kind of going back to, maybe they don't drive as frequently, so when they're at home, they're always connected to their phone or what have you. And so when they get into the car, it's the same kind of practice or habit. Whether I'm on a motorcycle or in a car, I always see people doing some really stupid stuff in their cars, stopping right on the road because they missed their turn, or trying to go 2 lanes over, or sometimes even like running red lights. I see this on every time I go out on the road. And I'm not like saying I'm the best driver or anything. I make I make some dumb mistakes too. Like, I'm also a distracted driver. Like, I'm in that category, but I do try to keep my wits about me. Ever since the pandemic, like, I feel like the quality of drivers or the quality of driving on the road has diminished significantly. And I tried to do some research on this, you know, to see if it's valid or not. My thoughts are valid. And there are some correlations, although I don't think it's a direct correlation. Like, I do know that car fatalities, like fatalities when you're driving, have gone up since the 2019. So ever since 2020, it has gone up year over year. And in 2020, or actually in 2022, it's the highest that it's ever been since like 1972 or something like that. I read that in the statistics. So I do think there is something to it, something to be said. Again, this is a really complex issue. I do think there's a there, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think drivers are distracted. You know, they're out of practice and, you know, in their daily routines of driving to work and all that stuff. So I think that all of that culminates to, you know, drivers not being attentive on the road, things of that nature. Oh, and not to mention motorcycle accidents also have gone up year over year since 2020. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into it, to be honest with you, but I do think there's a little bit of a correlation. So yeah, ever since the pandemic, things have just changed and not gone back to normal. I see this the most when I'm on the highway trying to get somewhere, and in the Maryland area, it's not abnormal to do like 70 to 80 on the highway, but on the weekends for some reason it's people going like 45 to 55. It's just bananas. It's insanity. I don't understand it. So yeah, I think bad drivers on the road is another thing. By the way, let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know what you guys think. All right, now the third thing that I've seen that's been forever completely changed by the pandemic in terms of the motorcycling industry is the rise of the motovloggers. What do I mean by this? Ever since the pandemic, people took up motorcycling, which I think is great. You know, I think a natural extension to that is that people want to try motovlogging and try YouTubing, right? Like, YouTubing is all the craze, kind of the gold rush. So people want to try their hands at it, or, you know, it's just another hobby to kind of fill the time, right? And I'm definitely in that bucket of trying to fill the time, trying to learn new skills, new things, just to keep yourself interested and engaged while you are stuck at home. What I've noticed is just on YouTube, there's just a ton of motovloggers on YouTube that cover any bike that you could ever, you know, think about, any motorcycle that you could think about, which I'm not mad about. You know, like I said, the more the merrier. You know, any bike that you want to research, somebody has a channel centered around that bike. So yeah, those are just the three biggest things that I think the pandemic has changed for the motorcycling industry. I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are the three things that I thought about. I feel like, you know, there's a really strong correlation with the pandemic and motorcycling. I hope you all enjoyed the content. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Go ahead and subscribe if you like the content. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.